getting into jab select.
It is time. Picks and bans for KT Rolster versus the KOO Tigers. Game 1. Looks like Kennen and Gangplank will be our first couple bans here. Elise to follow. And so, not wanting to deal with the Kennen is KT Rolster. Of course, KOO just going to ban out that Gangplank, which is not too surprising. Is the Mordekaiser going to get through, though? Because, again, you know, KT's style doesn't really tailor to that very well. They did play it once, but I wonder if KOO is going to kind of hang this in front of them.
Yeah, I'm curious what they're going to do, because the last time these two teams faced off, we saw KOO banning out Azir, Cassiopeia, Shen. Now, Cassiopeia not really in the meta, but some picks very much focused at Nagne. And the Shen now, even though we haven't seen as much of it in the top lane, Peekaboo, for the first time ever, played Shen-supported Worlds. So now it is a flex pick for KT.
I think there is a huge pinch on Hojin's champion pool right now, especially if they lock in Rek'Sai with their first pick. Because Hojin's played 2 Elise games, 2 Lee Sin games, and 2 Rek'Sai games thus far at Worlds, and 2 bans have already been targeted specifically at him.
That said, Hojin is known for having pocket-pick junglers like Trundle and Sion that he's been actually quite successful on, but it's going to be a Darius first.
Wow, so focusing the jungle bans and still giving the jungle options over to KOO, but they want that Darius. Is Tahm Kench going to go over to the KOO Tigers? It is. Tahm Kench and Rek'Sai. Strong couple picks for KOO right off the bat. Smeb's happy about it.
Tahm Kench is so tremendous in this Worlds meta. Also, Gorilla has been putting in the hours to make it one of the best champions within his pool. It is his most played champion here in European solo queue additionally.
Yeah, and he's played 6 different picks so far, a unique support in each one of the KOO Tigers games. So this is only the first time that he's actually going to be on a support again. But I think he had the best Tahm Kench game of anybody so far at the World Championship.
Yeah. Dude, that was one of the most entertaining support games I think I have ever seen with Gorilla's Tahm Kench, so I cannot wait to see what he can do today. Gragas and Thresh picked up by KT. 2 more over to KOO, and of course, Peekaboo on that Thresh is a pretty huge danger. It's the champion that he's known for, so both supports getting some of their best champions, I think you could say right now.
I think so. I think KT's actually been fairly conservative with this early pick phase.
Yeah.
I also don't think they gained a huge amount of value from their bans, since we are seeing Rek'Sai versus Gragas, which is pretty much the junglers we see in every game. And KOO will bring out the Ashe. The 3rd time in a row that it has not been banned.
It's interesting that we're seeing it paired with an Ashe and not a hyper carry like Jinx that we've seen most of the other times. Are we going to see the Kalista from KT? Interesting stuff happening here from the KOO side.
Absolutely, because we've also seen Arrow mainly playing hyper carries. Kog'Maw and Jinx have been his 2 major picks. Specifically, he's done the most damage per minute on Kog'Maw, which he's played 3 times. It's what you'd expect out of KT, I feel like.
It does, but does it play into the Ashe too much?
It does, definitely plays into the Ashe.
I think you take Kalista here and try and dominate the laning phase if you can. This is a bit of an atypical draft from KT, because almost always this team tries to counterpick for Someday, so they're very confident in the Darius. But when we saw them first picking top lane on blue side against SKT in the Summer Championship, they took Fizz, and it really didn't work out for them. So I always get a little worried when I start seeing KT now first picking top laners.
Nagne is going to go with that LeBlanc in the mid lane. We were talking about this before the match today when we were looking at some stats.
Baby.
There's a mid lane Veigar for KURO. So KURO versus LeBlanc, and Smeb, of course, taking that Fiora up to the top lane. Maybe we'd see the mid ribbon, but nope, it's going to be the Veigar.
At first glance, I'm not a fan of KT's draft right now. They picked a fair bit of skirmish and assassination and pick potential straight into a Tahm Kench. I feel like if you're going to be straight into a Tahm Kench, you need to pick a large amount of AoE damage. And also, they don't have very good ways of dealing with KURO's Veigar if he starts to get ahead. So there's a lot of different ways KT can lose this game.
Well, we've seen the dangerous stuff that can happen when you hook somebody that Tahm Kench then eats and flashes away with. Thresh can go on a very sad voyage after that.
Yes, you can. You don't fish for catfish.
You don't.
With a hook.
He will eat you. Not a lot of muscle on us. Not a lot of muscle on Thresh. Yeah, you got a noodle? Is that
got a noodle.
You're bringing it in again.
The blitz
We're not 10 minutes into this cast, and already Monte Cristo's bringing up the noodle.
Fish for catfish with barrels this game. Score's going to just knock him right back into the team.
I think so. Like shooting fish with a barrel this time, I guess.
The brute force way of fishing.
Who knows? Yep. A barrel gun? No one's going to. Well, that sounds like the name of a real gun. Maybe it is. I don't know, they banned us here. But it's time, guys. We're moving on to the Rift, so share your predictions throughout the day by tweeting at LOL Esports with the hashtag KTWin or hashtag KOOWin, and we will see who moves on to the semifinals between KT and KOO, Korean rivals moving on to Summoner's Rift. And it is time, guys. Who's ready for some League of Legends?
I'm
ready. I guess.
I'm ready.
All right, that's enough. That's enough for me.
I'm assuming Monty is ready as well.
I feel
He's
pretty
not
ready.
All right, game one. I'm just resorting to reading the screen in the front now. There we go. Welcome to Summoner's Rift, guys. And it will be a teleport for Nagnes LeBlanc. That's a bit different, isn't it?
Definitely is. Expected on the Veigar, but now I wonder what KT's strategy is going to be. Nagne has been, both of these players actually are LeBlanc players, which is a bit surprising considering normally they're control mages and they don't actually play that many assassins. But this is the one assassin that these guys have both always played. And well, Veigar will be a new one, though.
Quadruple teleport.
Yeah, and to speak to the LeBlanc versus Veigar matchup, I actually think it's pretty heavily favorable for LeBlanc in lane. More so when LeBlanc brings Ignite, though, because it's a significant amount of kill pressure. Later in the game, it gets very easy for the Veigar to just ult the LeBlanc, who's usually going a high amount of ability power, and you can almost always get the ultimate in to force the LeBlanc out of the fight after one rotation. So Nagne is really going to have to snowball this game, I'd say even harder, because he's not able to win the lane phase through Summoner Spell.
Yeah, and maybe they can get some sort of advantage out of the laning phase and start split pushing, but one thing that Prey is really extraordinary at is his use of Hawkshot. And that was a major factor in the first win against CLG, was how well Prey was timing his Hawkshot, watching the enemy jungler consistently, and being able to set up plays on the mid lane from the side lanes as a result. So that's something that we usually don't see on the screen, more just on the mini-map, but it's something you should be keeping an eye out for this game because Prey is so good at timing it.
I'm wondering how this mid lane matchup's going to go between Nagne's LeBlanc and Kuro's Veigar. I mean, when LeBlanc comes in with the distortion, that's a dash, so that gets caught in the cage.
Correct.
But the jump out is a blink, so it won't be. So Kuro's going to need to be really fast and kind of predicted to have any chance of catching it. Yeah,
basically LeBlanc holds all the cards in that matchup because there is an arm time on the cage. Basically, Nagne will always be able to predict if he's going to get caught in the event horizon, and Kuro can't actually reactively use it because if he uses it after Nagne has burned the damage, he can still get out freely. The only thing you can do is place the event horizon on the point where the distortion was cast from, so that if he swaps back, he stuns himself then.
I mean, he picked himself into the matchup, so clearly he's got some confidence against this LeBlanc. We'll see if he can follow it up. Gorilla harassing Peekaboo. Peekaboo plays him in. There's the third. Peekaboo forced to flash away. Doesn't want to get eaten by that Tahm Kench.
Well, really early troubles here. Peekaboo is trying to walk a little bit too close to that brush and definitely is punished for it quite quickly into this game. And you know, they wanted to have some sort of advantage here with the Kalista, start using that lane bully status that this AD carry has, and they're just not going to get it now with a flash down.
Yeah, getting bullied right now by Prey and Gorilla. Score coming down, only 2 CS so far for Arrow.
Yeah, Ashe's early laning phase is actually tremendously underrated. It's one of the strongest laners in the right situation, and it was made even stronger here by the fact that Gorilla and Prey did Gromp about 5 seconds faster than Arrow and Peekaboo did the Krugs, so they very easily got level 2 first, and as we saw, it wasn't properly respected by Peekaboo and Arrow, so he had to use his flash while he was out-leveled by the opponent bottom lane. That's actually a pretty big mistake there. If you know, you should know that you're going to be out-level 2, and you should almost never get caught as a level 1 versus level 2 in this lane situation.
Definitely. Standard lanes, though, continuing on. Score moving up towards the top. They want to be a little bit careful because they know Hojin was lurking around in the enemy jungle. There he is. Score finding him, going to do a little bit of damage on his way out. Actually, Nagne coming up. There's the flash in response from Hojin. Meanwhile, Someday keeps Smed up in the top lane, but he may regret it. Smed comes in. Can he get the kill? Not quite. He flashes, tries to go over for the turret. The turret hits him, and first blood goes to Someday. Smed getting a bit overeager there.
And actually, that kill was caused by Nagne's teleport because Smeb could have retreated backwards, but the teleport LeBlanc secures first blood. He doesn't get anything out of it, so he loses mid lane pressure, but the top lane matchup is much more important.
For the team.
I am so surprised that you'd see that level of all-in from Someday because he was really willing to scrap, but Nagne had the time in the mid lane to make the teleport up there, so it's all coordinated. We can see there's no Veigar right there, and so LeBlanc easily able to respond to this, walking up the river and then using the TP.
Yeah, Smeb was able to outplay the first Decimate by getting inside the ring, and he's confident enough to do the all-in because the junglers were engaged down bottom. That flash forward, though, was the instant Smeb regretted his decision and gives up first blood.
Made a terrible mistake. Meanwhile, down in bot lane, things still progressing. Arrow pretty far behind in CS yet, but he has had a chance to catch up just a bit. And Someday, wow, not wasting any time going aggressive onto Smeb again. He's got that double Doran, so he's got the Ruby Crystal actually too. So he's got the sustain that Smeb is kind of lacking right now.
Yeah, with that one item advantage, it's going to be very difficult for Smeb to walk up on the minion wave right now. So here's Hojin ready to help.
Smeb trying to bait Someday back. Hojin comes in. There's a knockup. They know that Darius has no flash. Ward's thrown down. Someday in a lot of trouble. Can they take him up before he gets to the turret with that slow? I think they can. The heal was nearly enough. Someday pulls him in. Oh, and he gets 1 for 1. Someday already doing work on that Darius.
Just getting the Decimate off cooldown, hitting 2 people, getting the heal in was enough to buy him time to get back under the turret. And I love this Fiora-Darius matchup. It is so fun to watch in this top side. Smeb will get a kill in response, but it's been a wild one so far.
It really feels like Fiora-Darius is the essence of what they say when we call it a skill matchup, because it really depends on how they play. It depends on the item timings. Different breakpoints come out throughout the game that gives either one an advantage. And that was honestly a perfectly timed gank by Hojin, but Someday executed well enough in the escape that he traded the kill back. That gank almost equalized that lane entirely, but instead they just trade a kill, and Someday will maintain a small advantage.
Yep, pretty much. Picks up that longsword while Smeb picks up his Ruby Crystal. Meanwhile, a little bit of action in the bot lane. And this one could get a bit bloody overall, too. I mean, coming into this, KT and KOO, besides SK Telecom, had the highest kills per game, the lowest deaths per game, so they really know how to make the plays that result in kills.
Well, not only that, though. Oh,
Level 6 here.
Oh, time to dive.
Yep.
They're gonna go in.
This will take turret first so that they can stack up bleed stacks if they want to go, but they're a little sloppy on the initiation there.
Yeah, Someday took a couple of shots right there walking back under the turret, so they're not going to be able to pull that one off quite yet. All right, stepping right there.
Yes, that's enough poke that they're going to want to pressure Smeb off this turret or force a Rek'Sai to come up elsewhere. They haven't had eyes on Hojin, so there's going to be a little bit of trepidation on this gank. They're wondering if Rek'Sai is going to come through, but they have all the entrances covered, so they think this is pretty much a safe dive if they want to go.
Should be. Score is right there, but yeah, again, they don't quite know where Hojin is, and they're actually going to give that one up for the moment. Recall for Someday, so will they decide to go for it? Smeb coming down, and it doesn't look like anything's going to happen right now. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, KOO has fallen a little bit behind in CS, but you kind of expect that in this matchup.
And when it comes to the early game, we briefly touched on this before, but in the first 15 minutes of the game, KOO was up 3.2 kills for every death that they had, and KT was up 2.25 kills for every death that they had in the group stage.
Wow.
So
one of those things will change.
One of those things will change, but they like to fight. They've been very successful at acquiring kills early. These are the top 2 teams at Worlds so far in terms of kill-to-death ratio pre-15 minutes.
Someday going at it again.
Beautifully done.
Yeah.
This matchup is almost entirely decided on 2 things. It's the riposte timing by the Fiora, and also Darius being able to land the outer ring of his Decimate. Whichever one of those goes more beneficial for either the Fiora or the Darius is generally what swings the matchup.
True enough. CS nearly dead even, though. Someday protecting himself against some ganks, which you know Hojin really wants to make happen. I don't know. We seem to have hit a bit of a lull in the action for now.
Yeah, but at the moment, KOO is actually swapping lanes, and the question will be whether this was scouted out by KT because they haven't pinged anyone missing.
Are you looking for a challenge? Whoa, the entire KOO team almost showing up. There's Nagne as well, came in with his teleport. Someday is going to get taken out, and now they're going to go after Nagne. Can't quite catch him though. Whoa, big barrel from Score, and KOO takes a couple big turret hits. KOO might stick around to take down this turret, but man, everybody wanted a piece of Smeb in that top lane.
Well, they needed to shut him down, right? He was getting too much of an advantage, so they send all 5 people up into that top side to go ahead and make a play right here. We did see Gorilla hit that level 6, try and come in very quickly, and they caught Someday unaware. And now KT scrambling to get this turret.
Yeah. KT is now trying to respond to KOO's great lane swap that sent 5 people up top. I think overall, the fact that KT was able to keep 2 people down in the bottom lane means the gold's going to stay pretty close. Mainly that gank top lane was KOO's way out of losing matchups. They were losing that top lane extremely badly. It's actually something the Flash Wolves did against KOO when KOO had a huge amount of pressure early on in the game, is they lane swapped their AD carry and support top lane later on in the game to equalize it. Now they're trying to swap back, but they might be a bit out of position.
Oh, it's fighting time in the bot lane. Arrow comes in, throws Peekaboo on towards Prey. Prey eaten by Gorilla. Gorilla a lot of trouble, has to pop that E. Throws himself over to the other KOO players coming in. Nagne backing away. Smeb with the first kill onto Nagne. KOO with an early lead in this fight. Someday and Arrow in a little bit of trouble. Peekaboo already on the way out, and Someday gets knocked up by Hojin. Drexler. It's going to be another kill. Smeb grabs it yet again.
All 5 members of KOO are always in the same place. I mean, Gorilla coming in with the Tom Kench ult in the first fight, this time just being there as KOO is rapidly just alternating the sides of the map, trying to catch out KT, and it's working. They're gonna get the first dragon.
And I'm wondering what is necessarily going through KT's heads right now, because they have been the team that wards the most, and they have been the team that's gone upgraded yellow trinket on their mid laner every single game. But this match, they've gone sweeper on the LeBlanc. They have a very late Sightstone timer on score. He hasn't even begun to build it yet, and they are actually losing because they're not tracking where KOO is on the map. They are not doing the things that they have done throughout all of the group stage in order to become 5-1 and get here, and they're getting punished because of it.
Well, this is looking good for KOO because KT has been opting into these fights. The bad side of what KOO is doing is that you try and load 5 people into one lane, and you lose pressure across 2 lanes on the map. So it's been functional because KT has been willing to scrap out with them. If KT starts to play a little bit more defensively, they can punish with turrets.
Well, I think to keep in mind, too, is the last time these 2 teams met, KOO did win the first game as well, and KT still took the series.
And I feel like specifically, though, if KT wants to be able to play defensively, they need to have the vision because they're being surprised by these 5-man ganks, and they can't accurately gauge that there are actually 5 people there. So until they get the proper wards up on the map, I think KOO will continue to be able to roam 5 people and create numbers advantages.
And we saw the dragon stats come up there too. KT actually, surprisingly, they're 5-1 in the group stage, but they actually lost more dragons than they secured. Meanwhile, the KOO Tigers, much more dragon focused, about 2-to-1 ratio on those dragons secured versus lost. So KT really needs to tighten up their control over that objective. And if you're KOO coming in, you start to think, hey, maybe we should prioritize this, try for that 5 dragon stacks, and that's what's going to get us the win here.
I wouldn't be surprised. It is odd, though, because KT, did prioritize those dragons so much in Korea and Champion Summer. So to see them kind of play a bit of a different style here at Worlds, maybe something that a lot of people are expecting. And I think KOO's got it right as far as trying to fight and control those early on. Doesn't look like KT's going to be able to steal their blue. KOO's going to take that one for Kuro.
Got this big swing in the top lane, too. All of a sudden, Smeb starting out 0-1. Now 4 kills. 4-1, and they've managed to keep Someday down. And I think what they're doing is so smart, because it's when Someday starts to get ahead and become that unstoppable split pusher that KT really gets rolling. So they've just thrown a wrench in the gears there.
It seems, too, that Peekaboo and Score have not been able to do what Peekaboo and Score are kind of known for doing, which is get in the enemy jungle, put down a lot of wards. You look at the map right now, not a lot of KT wards on the KOO side. And the thing is these 2 teams know each other really, really well. KOO knows exactly what KT wants to do with their jungle and support, and they're doing a great job of stopping it.
I would agree. Gonna get a free turret right here, no defense.
Yep.
Arrow popping down
That'll help.
From the jungle, but easily taken, and gonna get a freeze on the other side, though.
Yeah, at this point, though, KOO will need to get some actual deep wards if they want to make their next move. They've been able to hawkshot things down a little bit. I think they're mainly able to get that turret. Was that the Abyssal Voyage out
to get
out? To the ground?
So, yeah, what happened was KOO pushed forward right there. They didn't have a lot of wards in the river, so
they were afraid they're getting.
They were afraid that they were going to get collapsed on, especially since LeBlanc's teleport was up. So they go ahead and use the Tom Kench ult just to secure the turret and get out.
Makes sense.
And this is what I love about this Abyssal Voyage is, as this tournament has progressed, we've seen more and more use of the Tom Kench ult. Started coming in, nobody really using it in an interesting or a flashy way, but we're seeing more and more ways to use it as the players get more comfortable with this champion.
Well, between 2 teleports and Drexler and Tom Kench ult, KOO can basically be anywhere on the map they want anytime.
Ash Arrow, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that may be one of the reasons Nagne, instead of going for Ignite, went for Teleport, because they were realizing that they were so outscaled in globals here, and that's a large part of what's been winning teams games here at World. So they're trying to keep up a little bit, although I feel like KT is shooting themselves in the foot a little bit early here, not upgrading yellow trinkets early, going sweeper on LeBlanc when Nagne has been doing nothing but upgraded warding trinkets, and they are getting a little bit out-roamed on, and they are going to be more vulnerable to picks, I feel like, because KOO has the initiation tool with the Ashe.
Yeah, they definitely do. And we're getting into the point now. We talked about 15 to 30.
A little bit of action onto Kuro, but Nagne not really finding anything. Peekaboo not landing any hooks.
Got the flash, though. That's pretty big.
Helps, certainly, against a champion like Veigar that doesn't have a lot of maneuverability.
For 15 minutes, this is where KT, they like to farm a lot. This is where KOO likes to kill you. So we'll see who gets the better end of this, because KT has been a great team at farming all 3 lanes, but KOO, this is when they want the plays to happen. They want to fight you, they want to skirmish. And KT, the mass wards are starting to come down as they regain control over the topside river.
Yeah, now things are starting to swing just a bit, but they've got to protect this mid lane turret. If KOO takes this out, along with the bottom lane, they'll have really good dragon control. KT, though, going to deny them for now. Someday it looked like he wanted to be sneaky, but nope. Hard to be stealthy when you're dribbling a basketball.
It's too noisy,
right.
Especially trying to dribble it in water. I'm not actually sure how that works.
You don't see James Bond dribbling a basketball or anything like that.
You don't see anybody dribbling a basketball in a river.
No. Well, you see people try, but they fail pretty miserably. Oh well. I'm sure they'll invent something for James Bond. If he wants to play basketball in a river, he can.
Yeah, they invented an invisible car. I'm sure bouncing a ball on water isn't that
How
difficult.
hard can it be? Come on, Q, get on that. Seriously. Well, someday, just pushing up to the top lane as well.
Yeah, I will say, though, we mentioned the 10 to 15-minute jump that KOO had so heavily in the group stage, the largest of any team. They actually averaged 2,300 gold advantage specifically between 10 minutes and 15 minutes, and we're thinking, it's just because of the group stage. They had a 2,000 gold jump between the 10 and 15 minutes against KT in this game. They have been very good at making that nice rotation that leads to a team fight win against pretty much every team at Worlds, and they did it again here against KT.
And here comes Dragon. Second one just came back. Wondering where the first one went. He'll probably find out soon. Can KT take it, though?
You think the dragons will stop just flying back into that one pit.
It's like,
there's like a pile of dragon bones at the bottom. Maybe they shouldn't be here.
There's like a big dragon cave underneath, and there's some dude who's like, all right, who wants to go to Dragon Funland? And they're like, me. And he's like, George, it's your turn. They open the door, and he flies out, and everyone's like, oh, I'm so jealous. I'll be next. Little did they know. It's really kind of messed up when you think about it.
And then like 25 seconds later, it is dead on average because these teams get it so quick.
See, nobody knows that, though. The dragon's underneath the dragon pit. They don't know about this. Somebody should tell them.
Yeah, the cruelty to animals is pretty real.
It's horrible.
Isn't it a mystical beast?
Oh, mystical beasts can be animals.
That's true.
What are you, mystical beastist?
We just need a new one. People for the ethical treatment of mystical beasts.
Huh. The P-tempt?
Doesn't have quite the same ring.
Not really,
here,
no.
does it?
Well, nobody really willing to go for the dragon so far right now. KOO just grabbing their blue buff, and we'll see if they can move around it. They've got wards down, but KT paying a lot of attention to the map right now.
Yeah, the item breakpoints aren't as in the favor of a team with a lead as they kind of should be. There's already a Negatron cloak on Nagne. A lot of this would actually have to be a pick created by KOO, which is why I think they're waiting. KOO doesn't have the advantage if they just group up and dare them to fight, but if they can actually get a catch, or will it be Gorilla getting caught?
Oh, Gorilla may have gotten caught here, but here comes Prey, teleports all over the place. Gorilla, Prey on the run, Kuro and Smeb coming into challenge immediately onto Someday, who just gets destroyed. KT on the run already. We'll see how far KOO wants to chase, but they can really turn on that dragon anytime, and that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah. Really sure what Someday was thinking. They're right into 5
Want to be hero.
Yeah, one of the strangest things about double TP on both sides is you're never 100% sure who is coming in whenever teleports are there.
It's true.
So maybe he didn't think he was going to come in right onto a baby cage from Veigar, but specifically, that's one of those teleports you almost have to cancel because his team was not in position. He should have seen the beginning of the Ren Horizon because he was stunned the instant he came in, and it's 4th death there for Someday. He's actually getting punished pretty hard.
He was playing so well in the early game, but now I really feel like a lot of desperation coming in from Someday here in the mid lane. And he should feel desperate with KT falling farther behind, losing that second dragon. It's got to be starting to make him sweat a bit. Oh, Gorilla, he's fishing.
I feel like fights that begin by Tahm Kench taking damage almost always favor the Tahm Kench. My experience through all of the Tahm Kench games at Worlds.
Relish, isn't it?
That fight, Nagne ended up blowing his TP too, trying to come in from behind. Really disjointed, poor engage there from KT.
Well, you got to wonder how experienced they are with playing with this double teleport. It was never a huge thing in Korea in the summer. It's something that I feel like the teams from that region are still kind of learning a bit about.
It's definitely something that many of the teams here at Worlds from across regions have had to take a lot more seriously. We thought this is the way the mid lane was going to go at the World Championship, just given the champion pools and the opportunity to do so.
What I feel like is so interesting about this matchup is the double teleport was more for the controlling mages that don't have solo kill potential. I didn't necessarily expect to see teleport on an assassin.
Yeah, you think you'd still want to go with something like Knight instead.
Yeah, because then you can out-pressure the person teleporting and stop his ability to TP.
One wonders.
Especially since they have to kill this Veigar early in the late game, and they could do that with a LeBlanc flank, because being a little bit sneaky on the side, using the control of the vision, but it's not going to be quite so much of an option in this particular matchup.
Yep. KT pressuring that mid lane now. Never mind, they're not.
Well, they're trying to, but we've kind of been over this discussion of Veigar and how I think it's going to be a massive pick throughout the rest of Worlds because he has almost everything that is currently valued in the game. Great late game scaling, great siege, great wave clear. He can assassinate other squishes coming at him. He's a strong team fighter. The only weakness is his mobility, and he is attackable in that sense. But if you're positioned well in the hands of a good player, it is one of the most powerful mid lane picks.
Yeah, we talked about him kind of as a new Victor, a little bit less mobility, but counterbalancing that with some insane single target damage and an ability to punish AP champions both in the mid and the top lane should they come through.
Well, man, if you get hit by an Ash arrow, that's just like a golden ticket for Veigar to walk up and destroy you.
I mean,
instant death.
You're not living through getting hit by an Ash arrow if the KOO Tigers fire it, because they're going to chain it straight into Event Horizon, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, and they're going to take the mid lane turret.
And that's the siege right there, Event Horizon around the turret. So if you want to walk up to wave clear, you're walking into your own death. Unless you can set up flanks, but at the time, KT doesn't even have their teleports up right now, so a really smart move for KOO to siege in that particular situation. KOO is actually very vulnerable to flanks, especially if they're using their Event Horizon in a siege situation, but they were very safe to do so in that situation.
KOO's doing such a good job at moving around the map in a group too, and we talked about, when you move in a group like that, you let the other lanes get behind, but they've got enough pressure across lanes now that they've got the time to do that, I guess, and make it work.
Well, the pushing pressure really isn't there for KT.
I suppose they have to try to match KOO, don't they?
Arrow's still waiting on that Ruinous Hurricane, so he can't wave clear as fast as he would like, so this is a great time for KOO just to set up this Veigar siege.
Yep.
Look at the kiting right there. There's just nothing coming in. You shoot out that volley, you put down the Event Horizon, and there aren't very many options. It really is up to Someday and Nagne to try and get a flank here. And Arrow has to farm right now because that Ruinous Hurricane is so important to controlling the minion waves so that they can't, KOO just can't group so freely.
Can that even really stop the siege, though? I mean, the attack range on Callista, if Veigar walks up and again, puts that Event Horizon down near the turret, can you get close enough to even clear the way?
It's mostly about clearing the side waves so they can't just group with no punishment. They have to. They will be forced to lose minions onto their own turrets if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, KT has to be ahead of the play of the 5 people grouping in the mid lane and create split lane pressure, and that in turn can set up the threat of teleport flanks. If KT ever gets in a situation where their side lanes aren't pushed once again, they're basically losing that inner mid lane.
Makes sense. Praying Gorilla pushing up this top lane a little bit, taking a detour to make sure that the minions are going their way. And KT just kind of seems afraid to try to really push out at all. They've got a couple wards a little bit into the top jungle for KOO, but it's not really doing them a lot of good right now. Dragon in 1 minute. And if KOO gets 3 in a row, KT has really got to start being terrified. They're worried now. They'll be terrified if that third dragon goes over the KOO Tigers.
Yeah, especially since they've got the Gragas engage going for them, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And KOO just has so much heal and kiting potential that fighting around that dragon is a very unattractive option for KT.
And the blue buff. Oh, goes to Hojin. Whoops. Hojin.
We actually haven't seen that much.
No.
Yeah,
it's actually been surprisingly infrequent. I think this is the first one I've seen.
Well, congratulations to Hojin. First one to steal the blue from his mid laner.
Well, at least he can get cooldown reduction.
I know.
Congratulations.
I really need it.
More tunnels, you know.
Oh, see, that's exactly what KOO wants to do to Nagne. As soon as he distorted in, he placed the event horizon right on the start of the distortion, so Nagne was either trapped inside or he had to go back and stun himself. Ends up burning his passive on it.
Yeah, very nice. Lost a lot of health on that. KOO Tigers sieging that tier 2 in mid lane now. Score trying to come from the side, but he's getting zoned a bit.
Now the teleport.
That's right, teleport coming in, and Nagne tries to do a bit of damage, but Gorilla just blocks it. Just eats Hojin right up.
Once
Digs
again,
him right out of the ground, I guess.
that's an example of why Tahm Kench is spectacular against pick compositions. As soon as someone was beginning to get caught, Gorilla could just waddle over and completely stuff that attempt. Now KOO is set up in the mid lane with good split push pressure in one lane. They can actually threaten either Dragon or Baron because they are set up so actively in the mid lane, and they've already burned Nagne's teleport, which is quite honestly the main flank at this point, since Someday is yet to pick up home guards and is needed consistently in the lane, so he doesn't have time to go back to base to charge his home guards and get off a good Darius flank.
Yeah. I kind of feel bad for Rek'Sai. You know, you're burrowing, you're cool, and then some guy shows up that can not only burrow like you can, but can take people along for the ride in his mouth. It's like, great, well, I guess I'm kind of boring now if I'm Rek'Sai. Looks like third dragon being started by the KOO Tigers. And will KT be able to stop this? They need to stop this.
If there was a time to stop it, it would be now, because they have not got a pick before the dragon.
Coming in, waiting to try to smite it away. KOO breaking out for the moment. Oh, Score takes the dragon for KT Rolster. Arrow comes in onto Arrow. He's going to cleanse it immediately, and KT trying to kite away. Kuro gets bounced in, though. He's in trouble. No, gets picked up by Gorilla, of course, but knocked over the wall. In fact, Someday got that kill. And now KT comes in. A huge apprehend by Someday, and KT all over the KOO Tigers. Even the challenge from Smeb wasn't enough, and there goes Gorilla. That is nearly a clean ace for KT Rolster.
Credit to KT Rolster for taking a fight and playing well, but a big mistake by KOO Tigers to not prep that fight with vision or a pick of some kind. They just allowed KT a free attempt at a Dragon Steal and then a full straight-up 5v5 engagement.
You can't respond with the arrow here, so the Event Horizon goes down. It just zones out while the Dragon dies, and at this point, KOO gets very greedy. With the Event Horizon down, shooting the arrow is not as attractive, especially when it hits the Kalista running Cleanse. And right here, Peekaboo zones him out. Kuro gets hooked, so poor positioning from the Veigar. Gorilla tries to save him, but he just dies inside the belly from the damage over time. And then Someday comes in with a huge apprehend.
Big body slam right into a 3-man apprehend, and it is lights out for the KOO Tigers.
Someday Score and the Hurricane from Arrow did so much work in that fight, but specifically it was just a very poorly played setup by the KOO Tigers. They lost all of their zone control, and we mentioned how they're vulnerable to flanks because they actually have a fairly not a very mobile team composition with the Veigar and the Ashe, but they have tremendous setup. They sacrificed their setup and they allowed KT to then use the mobility of LeBlanc, Gragas, and Kalista to get in on them. But now they're trying to shut down Someday yet again.
Trying to save Smeb. Someday in a little bit of trouble on the run now. KOO is all over him, and he is out of there. Even the ultimate can't save him, and Smeb topped up with that heal after the kill. He's 5-2-2 now, so still doing okay. Gold lead is in favor of KT. They do have the pressure right now, but they'll need a little bit more from that. We're able to pick up the Baron too and all that.
Baroned up minions, Ashe Arrow down, so they're feeling pretty safe about this siege.
Yep. Chasing KOO up. There we go. Score. A little bit of trouble. Knocks Smeb away. Has to burn his ult just to stay alive. So how much can KT get done with this Baron buff?
Well, that's going to be the question. They already wasted it a little bit by sacrificing Someday right there, putting him in a vulnerable position where he could get killed. And so now we've got a little bit of waiting to do. One thing that's a bit interesting here is we haven't seen the Aegis come out yet. Score has intriguingly decided to build a Frozen Heart in this game, which I really don't think is the priority when we're playing against a Veigar.
I mean, clearly they're worried about Smeb, but still, yeah, late game, that Veigar is going to do extreme amounts of damage.
I can kind of understand it. If Kuro wants to use his ultimate on Score to kill him, KT's probably saying sure. Then Arrow, Nagne, and Someday are going to be able to do work. So I can see the logic behind it, not to mention with the Cinderhulk and the Mercury Treads, it will be hard for Kuro to one-shot him anyway. I also have to mention the frontline power of KT and how interesting it makes these mid to late game fights. Because if Someday and Score get to a tanky enough point where an Ash Arrow will not kill them, and if Peekaboo can complete the McHale's, the lack of frontline for the KOO Tigers will create incredibly difficult teamfight situations for KOO. Late game Fiora, as strong as you can get, if you're not finding the right initiations into teamfights and you can't get through the other team's tank line, you become extremely ineffective.
Enough. Well, KOO just wants their blue buff right now. They're not going to get it, though. Went over to Arrow, able to steal it with that Ren. Meanwhile, mid-tier 2 goes down in favor of KT. They got the turret. Can KOO punish this at all? Doesn't look like it. Looks like they just have to defend their inhibitor turret.
These event horizons haven't really impressed me from Kuro this game. He's had a couple of good ones, but he seems to be throwing it down too early and not really considering the rest of the crowd control on his team, because that one spell is incredibly crucial to how they're going to team fight or even defend these towers.
Positioning does seem off a bit. KT going after that tier 2 down and bottom now. And KOO really had everything going for them. Yeah. That fight over the third dragon turned it all around.
KOO is right now trying to defend without the Ash Arrow, so there's no good threat of them initiating. Their split push pressure has all but died at this point, because it seems like Someday, especially at level 16, currently has the power spike over the 5-kill Smeb, so they can't send him safely over in that direction. KT is really taking control of this game off of that Dragon and then Baron.
Yeah, Smeb has had to itemize a bit awkwardly for MR, however, in this particular game, which is a little bit rough if we're talking about that split push one-on-one between Someday and Smeb with Fiora versus Darius. So we'll have to keep track of how that's going to go. Does finally buy a Chain Vest, so that should be a little bit more helpful. And KT, looks like they just want to push the lanes out. They recalled early, stop the siege. They really need to set up for this Dragon.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, it's only 35 seconds or so until that next Dragon comes up, so if the waves aren't pushing your favor, you're going to have a lot of trouble trying to secure it.
And I do want to point out the change in strategy mid-game here by KT. They swapped to a upgraded warding trinket on Nagne to get better vision.
There we go.
And then he also bought green wards on top of that. So the warding trinket itself was enough to reach your ward cap. He's only buying the green wards to then replace his own wards on the map and reposition, because it is so important that KOO doesn't get a surprise initiation on KT right now. That's the only way they get back into the game.
They're trying, hiding in that brush for a moment. Going to clear some wards out. They want that third dragon, or fourth dragon, or their third dragon stack, that is.
This game could still end. I mean, it's not that much of a goal difference at this stage, and one good arrow from Prey could really turn things around and open up this match.
It's a close game. If KOO gets the fight they want, could end right there, but the same could be said for KT, and I feel like we're seeing a lot of what we saw in that last best of 5 that we saw in the semifinals for Champion Summer between these two teams.
Yeah, very tight games. Yeah, pretty evenly contested. KT just trying to get the control over the mid and the bottom side right now. They've got great wards in the bottom for LeBlanc right now to keep split pushing up, so Nagne will feel very safe. And KOO just gonna back right off as the waves start to hit their tier 2s.
Pretty much. I'm wondering how much AP Kuro has right now, how much he's been able to build over the course of the game.
Let me tell you.
Find out.
700 is the answer.
Yeah, he's gained
lower than I would have expected.
He's gained 200 from his stacking as of now. And he's also gone for the death cap early, which many consider to be the suboptimal build. You get so much bonus AP, you almost want to go Void Staff's second item.
Yeah.
But instead, he's just going for the big numbers.
Interesting. Well, KOO going for the tier 2 down in mid lane here. KT may try to go onto this, though, someday. Back.
That's a teleport.
That teleport. He's coming in. KOO Tigers on the run already. Teleport from Nagne as well. Someday trying to flank, trying to bottle into KOO Tigers. Smeb goes in onto Score. He's going to get turned on immediately, though. Pops that ultimate onto Score. Can't get the kill, can't get the heal. Peekaboo in the mid lane. There's a kill for Arrow now. Score goes down, or rather Smeb goes down. Someday in the team all over the KOO Tigers. There's the ult, and here come the resets. Flash with the apprehend as well. Nice grab onto Kuro from Peekaboo. And this fight is all KT. Triple kill already for Nagne.
Yeah, KT completely steamrolls KOO in that straight-up engagement. They had good flanks that exposed the event horizon early from Kuro, and then KOO really just had no chance against the power of this KT composition.
Someday just rolling in with the home guards. And that's been a specialty of Someday for a long time. Great TP flanks, finds it again, baits out the event horizon. and there's no more defense for KOO. They try and split, but this is going to be the end of the game.
That's right. Hojin doing everything he can, but the timers are just too long, and there goes the Nexus. Game 1 goes to KT Rolster. GG.
Very competitive game. Back and forth there. That one fight at Dragon got KT back in it after they made some mistakes in the early game, started to fall behind in kills, and you could see KOO did everything they could to try and control Someday.
Yeah, it really felt like for about the first 20 minutes of this game, KOO was playing their composition exactly how they intended. But then after that point, as we actually saw many times during the group stages, KT found that one mistake the opponent made and then never relented the advantage gained off of that fight. After the Dragon fight, KOO really had no chance, it felt like.
Yeah, and I mean, it was still competitive to the end. If they would have had that miraculous team fight, if they would have had that Astro that they wanted, maybe they could have team fought their way back into the game. But I think we're in for a very good series here. Game 1 already looking pretty close, and I've got a feeling this one certainly could go the distance.
I had my questions about that TP LeBlanc, but honestly, when they needed those flanks in the late game, they were able to actually pick them up. Had some misfires, but again, like you're saying, after that Dragon fight, it really felt like KT figured out what they had to do to win that game.
Yeah.
They were never going to kind of attack from one side again, and instead setting up, of course, some days teleports and just drawing out the abilities they need. You only have hard CC on one front, and you've got a lot of squishy champions if you're KOO, so just take it away from them, basically.
Yep.
Force them to attack you on all sides.
I almost feel like what KT needed to do is just kind of be KT again. You know,
Yes.
get that warding trinket in the mid lane, get those wards in the enemy jungle, and what do you know? Playing like KT gets a win for KT.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They just got the wards down, and at that point, the picks stopped happening. Who would have thought?
Pretty shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if they bring that in Game 2 or not. I mean, KOO Tigers, obviously, both these teams have a lot of picks they can try out, a lot of different strategies they can maybe employ. So we'll see. Right now, we're going to go to check in with Dash and our desk to see if